Go live, go live. What's good? It's been a while. How do I transfer this live? To my laptop. Technical difficulties. How do I transfer this to my laptop? So I wanted to do this live stream on my laptop, peoples, but for some reason, I'm only getting connected on the phone, which is a bit annoying. It's a bit frustrating because I wanted to have this live stream and have this conversation while I had a bigger screen to watch it on. But it's all good, peoples. It's all good. I just want to see if I can contact with the chat. Live chat. Let me know if you're in the chat right now. I see a couple people. Only a few, but it's okay because I'm not really active on this channel. As you can hear, I have a cold at the moment. It's messing me up. I just came back from LA. And you know when you go to hot countries, the air conditioning is on all the time. All the time. Yo, what's up, Mohammed? Yo, yeah, send me a message. When you go to hot countries, the air conditioning is on all the time. And I'm just not used to it. So I got a cold, and my youngest son has got a cold. But I wanted to do this live stream and have this conversation because I was having this conversation with my youngest one today, my older son, about alcohol. Alcohol, especially if you live in the UK, is very common. You know, it's very mainstream. It's very accessible. And surprisingly, being born in the UK and spending most of my life in the UK, I've never actually tasted alcohol. I've never drank alcohol. I've never put myself in a situation where I've needed to drink, which is difficult for a lot of people to comprehend. Unless you know me, it's difficult for a lot of people to abide by that kind of living or to have that kind of lifestyle. So I wanted to send a message for a lot of the young boys out there because I was talking to my son and he was like, his whole thing was like, what does alcohol do? Why do people drink it? What is the as a kid you don't really understand why people would drink and get drunk, especially when we was in LA. There was a lot of homeless people. I saw some when I was out in LA. I walked into the lid shop to go and get a hat. Seconds later I walked out and the woman is scuffing with the man, like a man off the street, like just a random homeless guy, and he comes out and he says, man, you got me effed up. And when he did that, crazy. Another homeless guy, I don't know if they got beef or whatever, ran up on him and goes, what, you want to fight? Started chasing him down the street. At one point, the craziest experience, I'm taking my son to the park in LA. And in front of us is a group of kindergarteners, like a lot of kids in a row, about 10, 15 of them. As we're walking to the park, there's a man flat, laid out in the street on his back, like just lying there. And I was just like, what's going on? And just to show how normal this is in place somewhere like LA, the kids just told their teachers to walk around them. Yo, my G, is that my guy? Hudson, I haven't seen you for a long time. Big up, love, man. Big love. So anyway, yeah. So we're talking about alcohol. I'm trying to explain alcohol to a 5-year-old and why people take it. So obviously, like a big part of my practice for many years has been to stay on Dean, to stay on a spiritual path, to stay on a path that always keeps you mentally aware and away from distraction. Yeah, yeah, I got a cold. I got a cold. I got a cold. I was explaining how I got a cold from LA because the air conditioning is on all the time. So I've got a cold. So I'm just trying to manage my health levels. But I rarely get ill, to be honest. I try to keep my system clean, but I'm in one of them situations right now. I got a cold. So yeah, I'm explaining to my son alcohol and its prevalence in the UK and how people always drinking it. So as I grew up. My thing was always to stay on Dean, so stay away from cigarettes, stay away from smoking, stay away from alcohol, and stay away from immoral practices. This is kind of like what my parents instilled in me. But as anybody knows, your parents can only make you do something to a certain level. It comes to a certain time where you have to mature to understand why you do it. It's the same with anything. We can go to school from the ages of 5 to 18 or 5 to 13, but at some point you're going to question why. And if you don't find that answer for yourself, it's going to be so much harder for you to continue in that practice and continue in that activity. So with me, with alcohol, I always thought, yeah, this is how I'm trying to stay on dean. But also, I'm a person who believes in the importance of mental clarity in as many situations as possible. One of the reasons people are led astray, or one of the reasons we get distracted so much, is because we allow our mind to lose its clarity and its focus. So being inebriated, being drunk, for me, I've always seen it as a counteractive procedure. I've always seen it as this counteractive for people who are trying to go somewhere, or for people who are trying to like maintain focus, especially in a nightclub, or in a setting where people normally drink. I'm not judging anybody from drinking, but in a setting where people usually drink, like being the only sober person in a nightclub, you see so many things. I haven't been club for years, but when I was in university, funny, when I was in university, so because all my friends used to drink, everyone used to drink, and I didn't want to look like the uncool one. It's very hard to talk to women if they think you didn't drink. Then it'd be suspicious. I'd get an empty cup, but one that wasn't see through, and I'd fill it up with water, or I'd fill it up with Red Bull, just to give people the impression that I was drinking or something like that. Just to try and fit in. But having mental clarity in those situations, you see a lot of things. You see how fights unfold. You see how like men end up with women they regret later on. Like you see a lot of the things that alcohol can actually produce, or the outcome of taking alcohol. So it was interesting for me because a lot of my relationship with alcohol as I got older was starting to see the results of it. Not necessarily what I'd been told. Obviously being on Dean was part of it, but also the idea that I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I remember coming out of a party once, and my friend was just laid out, sprawled on the floor, drunk out of his head, and people were walking over him. He was laid out on the floor, and people were walking over him. I had to pick that boy up. I had to carry him back to the dorm room. He threw up all over me. He threw up all over my bed, and I had to wait for him to sober up. And in the morning, he was like, "I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful." And in my head, I was all thinking, "You're my guy. Of course, I'll do that." But in my head, I was wondering, like, imagine if I wasn't the person that came out to see you lying on the floor. Imagine if someone wanted to rob you, or someone wanted to do, people be doing some wild activities nowadays. There's all kind of things they could have done to you during that time. So I said, yo, like I've always looked at the results of intoxication, and I've realized that the more I've got older, the more I've realized that it's not a necessity, or it's not essential the way people kind of like to tell us. You see, and I guess if you're young and you're watching this and you feel the pressure to do stuff because of your peers, or not even young, you need to realize that there's nothing wrong with being. Um, yeah, I've seen people get drunk as well. I'll tell you the craziest story actually. I've seen the craziest story. I remember when we was young, and we was younger, as young boys do. And I was with my friends, and a group of females came round to the house. As you're young, you want them to come round the house, and you're trying to entertain them. Everyone's trying to impress. And one thing that struck me as weird is that the girls were insistent on getting drunk. I mean? They was like, "Oh, can we have alcohol? Can we have?" And I was like, "No, I don't drink." Many of my peers, they may drink occasionally, but they don't really drink heavy like that. But they were insistent on getting drunk. And for me, that was a pretty like scary situation because it's us, a bunch of men, and you're a bunch of women there, and you lot are coming into the situation, and you want to get drunk. And I'll be honest with you, I was like, this doesn't even sound right. Like, if anything happens today that is not approved of, like, or someone is unhappy, like it's gonna come down if the police run up or anything. Not saying that was the intention. It's gonna be like, oh, these people were intoxicated, they were drunk, you know. So I say that because I feel like in that way, drink as well becomes a bit of an escapism for people, you know. Um, it becomes a big escapism where people don't want to like think or escape the consequences of a situation, you know. So that's another thing I've kind of learned to keep moving in that context, you know, because drink has become such a big part of the excuse for people. And you know, in this life, we can't live with excuses. Not even live with excuses. We can't progress forward with excuses. Everybody wants to have an excuse for why this happened. Everyone wants to make a reason for something else happening to them. There's no accountability, you know what I mean? And I think everything that allows you to attach that accountability, you know, smoking, drinking, taking drugs, all that kind of stuff, you need to kind of think twice before you get into it. Now, you can do whatever you like. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I'm just talking as if I talk to my son. And I know most people, a lot of people that I speak to, or a large majority of them, started a habit because they picked it up from someone else. You know, some people started drinking because they didn't want to be the out in the crowd. They didn't want it to be not cool. One thing that I tell people about being not cool is that being actually cool or being alpha and all these things is actually when you allow people to accept you for who you are. When you're like, this is who I am, you either accept it or not. You generally find those are the people that actually get the most respected and the most rated. Those are the people that are like, he's cool. You know, if you see a man walking around in purple jeans, purple shoes, you're gonna look at him like he's weird. And if you look at him like he's weird and he looks back like, why are you looking at me? I'm upset. You're gonna think this guy is embarrassed. Whereas if he looks at you and he looks at you like, and what? I'm wearing this, you're gonna be like, rah, I have a certain level of respect for him because he's made decisions on his own accord, you know. And I think when it comes to sometimes the things we do, we don't make the decisions on our own accord. And I think when that comes to, you know, I felt when I was young, when I was a little kid, you know, I felt a lot of the pressure to like drink, you know, like, oh, it's going to be cool. Everybody drinks. They drink a little bit at Christmas, or all these kind of stuff, you know what I mean? But as I got older, I started to realize that people accept me for who I am. What would happen is people would pass the drinks around and they'll be like, nah, you know, that's Sully. He doesn't do that. You know, even to the point where I told all my in-laws that if they're coming to my house to celebrate, they can't bring alcohol. You know what I mean? I said that's the rules in my house. You have to accept it, or you know, or you know, preferably then you don't have to come. And they learn to respect that. You know, even to the point where I was at somewhere with my brother-in-law, and this man asked for a drink. It was in the fridge, and the thing is, because he's older and he's an uncle, I didn't want to be disrespectful. Technically, I shouldn't really be giving people alcohol, even if I'm just passing it to them. But I didn't want to be disrespectful, you know, because I was at adult's house. So I took the alcohol and I gave it to him. And my brother-in-law said, you know, next time just tell me to do it because I know that on your path or on your dean, you're not allowed to do that. You're not supposed to be giving people alcohol, you know. So that's how people have come to accept me for who I am. They've come to respect who I am and the choices I make. You know, people start to cater around you instead of you catering around people. I'll tell you an interesting story. I met this guy, and the guy he smoked cigarettes, and he was like to me, you know, I only started smoking to network. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, out here in the role I was working, he works for like a quite esteemed company. I won't say their name, but I was giving a presentation that I was talking to them about the power of creativity, storytelling, entrepreneurship. And and he said, in this place, people go for smoke breaks all the time. And in order to talk to people you want to talk to outside of work, you have to go on a smoke break. So he said he just started going on smoke breaks so he could have conversations with people. And he goes, that's how he got a job. And he got another job. You know, I was in a party, another company party, and I saw a guy, a friend of mine. He came from the smokers area, and I said to him, "Bro, do you smoke?" He goes, "Bro, no, but the exec of this business was there, and I need to raise money for him, so I had to smoke." You know what I mean? And that's all good, you know, get it how you live it. But I always feel like I've had more respect, or I've had more, not necessarily success, but I've had more meaningful conversations when I've said to someone that I don't smoke, and they'll say, "What? You don't smoke? Why?" I said, nah, it's not really my thing. They'll say never, you don't want to take no coke, you don't want to take no this, no that, you don't want to drink nothing. I'll be like, no, it's not my thing. And not only have people learned to accept that, but in some capacity, I feel like it's allowed them to respect who I am and what I do and how I go about things. You know what I mean. So it's interesting to be the odd one out in the space. Feel free if you are in the chat. Feel free to. I'm on my sofa. What did my guy say? Muslim once had a lady lying down, knocked out, and it's crazy. I'm a woman. I don't swing, but it almost made me cry. Yeah, man. I was a vegetarian. Yeah, bro. I was a lacto vegetarian in college. Man, they gave me meat to eat, and we drank. That's when I got a phobia for it. Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be with people who respect. Yo, shout out my G. Sorry, this is my first time seeing with the chat, so I need to go live. Yeah, man. You gotta be. I've seen people in some crazy situations. Like drunk. There's one situation I really regret. And like, I remember coming back from a night out in uni, I don't really regret it because I didn't know the ins and out. And there's this guy and this girl when they're coming up the stairs. Yo, what's up? Yo, freedom, bless, man, bless. We're just talking, we're trying to talk about. I guess I started it by talking about alcohol, but I really want to talk about like sticking to who you are and holding true to your tenets and your morals, irrespective of the situation. Some of us are so quick to let our morals crumble because of not peer pressure, but I think societal pressure. There's things I've done that I probably wouldn't have done if it wasn't so normalized in society. There's things that can go against the things that not necessarily I believe in, but the thing about this concept of believing is so hard because we all have our own individual thoughts. We all have our own kind of like intuition. We have our own gut instinct. But because society does its best to kind of nullify that, we tend to veer away from our own decisions, because our decisions are unproven. They're still in our head and not enough people validate them. If everyone is 12 people walking in one direction, you're like, I'm going to go in the other direction. It's very, very, very difficult to go in that direction when you're like, I don't know where that direction leads, but I know exactly where those 12 people are going. It may not be, yeah, specific. Like, it may not be where you want to go, but there's certainty. There's a lot of certainty in that direction. So if someone's like to you, yo, let's go to the pub after we finish the video shoot, I could say, nah, I don't want to do that. But then you look antisocial, you know what I mean? So you're like, I'll come along, Me personally, I'll be like, okay, I'll have an orange juice. But sometimes someone may feel like they want to be involved, especially, fortunately, I work for myself, I've been able to build a career for myself. So I don't feel that job pressure. Oh, see, I need to get tissue. Real talk, real talk. You don't can hear me. Oh, no, give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. I got some lemsip. Lemsip. I had to get some lemsip. You lot can still hear me, right? I just realized I got the headphones on. Getting some lemsip. I'll be back in a second. You know, um, got a sink full of. Yeah, man. I was grinding it through for like the 10 people in the chat, but still, I had to go get some lemsip. Yo, You know it's bad because I never really take like prescription. My it's all pleasure. It's all pleasure. I rarely take like prescription medication and stuff, but ever since I kind of like had children, I can't. You get ill more regularly, but also I can't afford to not be well. So I kind of just can't take the same risk of like I let my system fight it out. It's so funny because my neighbor, well, he's moved now. One of my neighbors, he's got three kids, all of them boys, and I remember he got ill like just after COVID times, in it. And I see him and I can tell this guy's ill in it. And I was like, "You're not gonna take anything?" He goes, "Bro, like I let my system fight it. I don't never take anything, only for the kids." He gave me that real like Rasta energy in it. I saw his wife in the shop 2 days later. I said, "How is he?" She said to me, "He's in hospital." He came out like a week later and he said to me, "Bro, I was wrapped." He goes, when you get to a certain level, when you're trying to manage so many things, your immune system is like sometimes you don't have the time to let it to do what it needs to do. But yeah, so I was talking about society and society pushing us in specific directions, and it's such a prevalent theme. I talk about it a lot in my work. The fact that we're always getting forced, and what's interesting, as you get older, this is the scariest thing. As you get older, is that people start to challenge less and less and less. Um, the norms of society, and these are people that may have been real rebellious or real kind of like anti-establishment, or people who kind of just like had their own path. Because what happens is, in order to kind of move forward in life, there's so many things that they encourage you to conform to. Okay, cool. You want to get a car insurance. You want to get a house. You want to get you got to get the interest and the mortgage rates, and you want to send your kids to school. Like all these things I've experienced myself. You get what I'm saying? So the further they get in life, the more it's like, raw, there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't know if I'm going to get to this destination. So I just need to start following the 12 people, and people drop off one by one by one. It's not sad, but it's like, it's eye opening, And that's why I think it's important to keep your circle tight. Because one thing about your circle, I don't think everybody needs to be doing the same thing. I don't think anybody needs to do the same thing. But I feel like they need to support you in what you're doing. Do you get what I'm saying? You all don't need to be like, if you want to be a bus driver, you all don't need to drive buses, but they need to allow you or support you to be who you are in the situation, I think that's such a key part of friendship, because me and my friends, a lot of my friends are different. We're all different people, but I find that I do get the support that enables me to be Suli, or to be who I am. You get what I'm saying? And I think that is even more so paramount than them trying to follow the same path as you, or follow the same direction in which you're going all the time. Oh, let's see anything in the chat. What's interesting? I've been trying to do the reaction is the track in the chat. Yeah. Oh, thank you, MB. Big love, man. You're too locked into the conversation. What does MB stand for? Oh, okay. Yeah. So back to like I was talking about alcohol and like peer pressure and all that kind of stuff. Next time I do this, I'll do this on my laptop. Um, I remember getting in the lift once. I was coming back from a night out when I was in university, so this is many years ago. And coming up behind me, there's a guy, and he's got his arm around this girl in it, and the girl is drunk. You know what I mean? The thing is, now at this moment in time, they look like they're in a relationship. You know what I mean? They look like they're a couple. You know what I'm saying? They're making jokes, all that kind of stuff in it. So even though my senses felt kind of off, I was like, you know what? This is the peer pressure. How am I going to intervene? Do you understand what I'm saying? Even if they are in a relationship, like, it's always good to check. You get what I'm saying? So I kind of like got in the lift with them. And then when we get to the top of the lift, I think when they're coming out the door, the girl was like, "Oh, like which one is yours again? In it, which room or whatever is yours again?" Something like that. I can't remember, but something that made me kick in and be like, "Right, like they don't actually know each other like that." And at that time, like it felt like it's too late because my mind wasn't really on it. And then in hindsight, there's a lot of there's a lot of regret there to be thinking, "Wow, like I don't know how that situation. Did she know the guy? I don't know, like if where he picked her up from, like all these things. And I often say to people, like, I'm a big advocate against like student culture of like just drinking until you're like hammered, then like, I'm against that completely. Or like until you're wasted or whatever, especially young kids, 17, 18, because that's when you hear, to be honest, I've got this controversial view in it, and I don't know if I can say it or get cancelled or whatever, but it's a live chat. Like, people always talk about like um things that happen, like rape, or drunk driving, or like assault, all that kind of stuff. And people always talk about like the individuals involved, the circumstance, but they never actually talk about like the alcohol, the actual root of most of these problems. If you actually said, wait, should we put different sanctions or limits on how people take alcohol, would these situations be different? Do you get what I'm saying? We never have that conversation. And I'm not justifying any of the things that happen, but I'm just saying that it's interesting where we live in a world where it's like, it's like what they say about the doctors, isn't it? You know what I mean? The doctors, they're not they're not there to prevent you getting ill. They're there to help you when you do get ill. Do you get what I'm saying? We never really address the root of the problem, when I'm a big advocate and believer that prevention is always much better than the cure, prevent at any given standpoint. But addiction is real. I feel like everybody has a level of addiction. We're all addicted to different things, and even if it's just like chocolate or television, and only when you acknowledge your addictions do you realize how hard it may be for someone to stop smoking, or someone to stop doing alcohol, or and I'm not even saying people should stop drinking. If you want to drink, but take into consideration like some of the things I'm saying. And I think one of the biggest things that I find that helps me get away from my bad habits is the context of situations that I put myself in. Do you get what I'm saying? My wife watches the Kardashians, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and it's I don't really I watch it from the side of my eye, so one of these shows, and one of the episodes I remember one of the Kardashians, I don't know which one, said they're going on a diet, and they were like, "But I'm going on a diet, but before I start the diet, I need to see this friend one last time, because whenever I eat with this friend, I eat bad, so I can't see them for the rest of the diet." And I think that's an important kind of metaphor, because sometimes we know what situations are going to encourage certain behaviors that aren't good for us, but we don't avoid the situations. And then we get in the situation, and now we're trying to use our willpower to keep us away from it. Do you get what I'm saying? Um, I think that's one of the things that we often overlook when it comes to like battling our demons. And day to day you're battling every demon. Some people are addicted to gambling, that's a tough one. Some people are addicted to pornography. That's a tough one as well. You know what I mean? For many years, like most men, I thought it was just normal to watch pornography. Do you get what I'm saying? But it's only when you get to yourself and be like, why am I watching this? I watched this a documentary years ago called Hot Girls Wanted, and it talks about the pornography. Maybe like 7, 8 years ago, and talks about the pornography industry and the dangers behind, basically, young girls, not even young girls, women, or some people that are getting abused to be in this situation. And when I watched that, I was like, oh, this is disgusting. I'm not watching this ever again. But then when I found myself watching it again afterwards, I was like, wow, this is actually an addiction. And what is an addiction? I guess is anything where you can't consciously or like um stop yourself from participating in it. That's what I kind of like to see. So a lot of us are addicted to food. I stopped eating sugar a while back. I stopped eating sugar for about 6 months. I tell you, that's like one of the hardest things I've done in my life. Just to stop eating sugar for 6 months. I give anybody in this chat 30 days. Stop eating sugar for 30 days, and you understand how a crackhead feels. You understand. Yeah, there is so much. Yeah, it's all mad. True crime now. Not even. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes, like you know. Okay, yeah. Before I sign out, that's my challenge. That's my challenge for anybody on this chat. I challenge you to stop eating sugar for 30 days. Then you understand of addiction and the way it works, and the mentality that kind of encourages people to do it. And I think when you are aware of how it works, you become more consciously in tune with the things that you are addicted to. I hate to say the cliche on the phone, but I was getting to a point where, and I had to like kind of like stop for a little while. But this is a cliche one. But I was getting to the point where I take out my phone and open a certain app just automatically. Like, even if my phone just dropped, I pick it up and open the app. And at some point, I was like, why am I opening this app? Like, no one's messaged me. WhatsApp, by the way. But it was just such an instinctual habit. Like, I'd give someone my phone, they'd give it back, and I'd open WhatsApp straight away, because because it becomes automatic. So, anybody, 30 day sugar free. Um, if you can message me on Instagram, Suli Breaks, SULIBREAKS. If you can get through the 30 days, but like when I talk sugar, if some of the breads, even you look at the back of the bread, there's sugar. If you look at the back of some of the cereal, there's sugar. It's so hard to kind of like give up something. So yeah, hopefully people have been got some insight. I just wanted to give my perspective because I was talking to my boy about it, and I was like, oh, maybe some other people can benefit from it. Me, I'm lemon sipped up, recovering from the cold. I should be sleeping earlier, but I got to do a whole bunch of washing up and ironing before bed. Look, you can even see my wife creeping down the stairs in the background. Um, but yeah, let's if you not make it through the 30-day sugar fast, shout me, shout me, shout me. They don't eat the sugar. Yeah, no, it's true, it's true, it's true. Now, trust me, when you do 30-day sugar, you will see the difference. Like, one thing you'll see the difference is, first of all, you're going to see a difference in your mood. Like, you're going to be so miserable. Like, the first week is like torture. You are going to be miserable. You're going to be miserable and you're not going to know why you're miserable. Do you get what I'm saying? Then, partly through that, you might get, you might get little migraines and headaches. And then after that, yeah, when you hit about 20 days, you're gonna be walking and you're just gonna feel depressed, like randomly. Like, you're just gonna, and when I say depressed, I don't want to say like clinically depressed, but your mood's just gonna feel low. Like, you're just gonna feel like you're just gonna feel so low in terms of like it's gonna come out of nowhere. Like, you're just gonna start feeling low. And then that's when you start to realize how much we use things like sugar to kind of facilitate for our day to day, or how much we use it to kind of like distract. And one thing you're gonna realize as well is you're going to learn the difference between when you're tired and when you're just hungry, or not even hungry, or when you're hungry, or when you're like kind of just need sugar. Because when you tend to eat a lot of sugary stuff, you don't always need sleep to keep you up. So what you do is you'd wake up and you're tired or you're not rested, but you'd be like, oh, let me just eat like a croissant, let me eat a muffin. And we're doing that throughout our days to kind of keep us like in check. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's one thing you notice. But that depression thing is the biggest one. That's gonna hit you like mad. But if you get past like 20 days, after that it's bliss, because what happens is your taste buds change. The maddest thing. So you start eating a date, like a date, and it will taste like a Kit Kat, you know what I mean? Or you'll start eating like a banana and it will taste so sweet. Like, you actually taste the flavors in the fruit. And once you start getting past that, you start to appreciate food a lot more. So, full disclosure, I'm a bit embarrassed to admit this, but ever since then, like, I can eat like chicken with no seasoning. You know what I'm saying? And it's not nice. I'm not saying it's nice, but I can eat chicken without seasoning. But I feel like I'm gonna get judged for this. But when I do eat chicken that's seasoned well, like when I eat something that they cook at home or something like that, then it's like it tastes extra sweet. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, your taste buds will change and you'll drop a lot of weight depending on like where you're at right now. Nah, trust me. No, the date will tell. It's like kick out. I'm telling you this. If you last 20 days, 20 days, you'll see your taste buds will just be mad. It just changes like crazy. Like, it's such a revelation. Like, but listen, I'll leave you. Listen, yeah. You look try it, let me know what you think in it. You know what I'm saying? But there's so many other things we can try give up. Another thing that gave me a lot of clarity is when I stopped using my phone at the morning. I wouldn't use my phone to midday, but it gets hard to maintain when you got like business or emails to reply. But so I read something and it was talking about the morning, and when you wake up in the morning, it's because survival. Like, initially, when you'd wake up in a forest or in a desert, your brain is thinking about all the dangers it needs to escape in it. So when we wake up in the morning, we're actually bombarded with a lot of thoughts. You get what I'm saying? And picking up your phone doesn't really help that, because it then just bombards you with more thoughts from external sources. So when I started leaving till like midday, or even leave an hour after you wake up, like, just use the first hour to just actually separate the the irrational and the anxious thoughts from the actual real ones, and you notice a massive difference, man. But people's, yes, big love. I'm gonna go and do the washing up. You know what I mean? Unseasoned. Hey, you look, my taste buds are a different level. You have to respect the taste buds levels. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go and think. I'm gonna go and do my washing up. You guys check out my newsletter for betterforworse.substack.com, because that's where I kind of keep regularly updated on my writings, more so than YouTube. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter. Hold tight those who locked in and out. Hold tight those who were there the whole way through. Um, Big up my G Hudson. Much love, man. I miss you, bro. I ain't seen you for a minute, man. God bless you, lot, yeah.